This is the video I wished I had watched in my 20s, when I was feeling lost and confused. What if feeling lost is actually the first step to finally becoming who you really are? Like, I wouldn't do anything over, but I wish I knew some of the things I knew so I wouldn't have to go through so much pain or confusion or all the crazy stuff. So that's why I'm making this video. And I want you to ask, like, what if this confusion, this uncertainty, this giant, what the heck am I doing in my life, wasn't something to fix, but something to follow? It's actually intended to be like that, especially in your 20s, because your 20s aren't about having this 10-year plan. They're about unlearning everything you were told you should want, so you can finally figure out what you actually want. So if you're feeling your life's a mess right now, this isn't the end, I promise you, it's the beginning. You grew up being told what to do, what to study, what success looks like, what kind of job is safe, what kind of relationship is normal, but something starts to shift in your 20s. For some of us in our 30s, you start questioning things. Your parents' beliefs, society's checklist, the identity you were handed with, what your friends told you you need to do, what Instagram and social media is telling you. You start to feeling like some of this doesn't fit, none of it fits. And that's where most people panic. Instead of realizing this is the exact moment their real life is just starting. And there's a quote, sometimes the hardest thing to do is to unlearn who the world told you to be, okay? So think about that. It's the hardest thing to do, but it's one of the most important things to do. And science also backs this up. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles decision-making and sense of self, is still forming, which means now is literally when you're designed to break free away from the script and write your own. We still have this very malleable kind of brain and neuroplasticity, so we can really change in this point in our life. So in this video, we're gonna explore why feeling lost in your 20s is a powerful sign of growth, how breakups, failures, even identity crisis can become the foundation of your resilience, and how to trust your intuition over everyone else's expectations. And also, what practical steps you can take. Some of the things that I did. I didn't do them in my 20s, but I wish I had. Like discipline, mentorship, connection, networking, learning to find your way forward. And I'll explain the best way to do those. So Brianna West said, your 20s are about becoming. And sometimes becoming looks a lot like breaking. But in this video, you're gonna see that you're not lost. You're just leaving the map behind. You walk away with a few mindset shifts, real life strategies, and maybe just a little more trust in yourself. Okay, so let's dive in. Number one is just realizing like a lot of the stuff that we're feeling and that we're trying to break away from is because we were told what to want. We watched our parents, we heard them talking as we were growing up, going to school, being in a community, depending on where you live. All these beliefs are kind of implanted in you. What you see, especially now when kids are growing up with social media, there's so much implanted in their belief systems. School, so much conditioning, and childhood was really to chase these acceptable goals, be a doctor, a lawyer, when to get married, what type of house you should live in, how much money you need to make. But your 20s is when that kind of starts to break off. Start realizing like this doesn't feel right. Maybe I don't actually want this. I started realizing this in my late 20s personally, but it's really the sign of a rebirth and not a breakdown. For me, I was a serial entrepreneur. I thought that making money was gonna equal happiness. It wasn't until I was about 28 years old that I started making a little bit of money, that I realized what I was doing, I didn't like it. I felt empty, had no sense of purpose, and I wasn't fulfilled. And I went on this journey of self-discovery, which took me probably another 10 years to kind of like figure out. And so I'm gonna give you some tips here so that you don't have to go through such as a long and painful journey, but sometimes the pain part of that journey is good, but we don't have to extend the stay longer than we need to. Think about as a rebirth and not a breakdown. And there's a quote that I love, that you're not behind, you're just breaking away from the script. So the next thing that's really important is your brain is built for identity change in your 20s. What does that mean? So the prefrontal cortex, which governs long-term planning and identity, is still forming. Your brain is wired to question and experiment right now. It's designed like this, that you don't have to have it figured out by your 20s. This is actually a really amazing time for growth. And actually neuroplasticity is actually the strongest in your 20s. Perfect time for personal transformation. The next thing, number 3, is this thing called intuition, your gut instinct. And like the mind is always like looking for safety and like fear and like whatever, but your gut instinct or your heart or your intuition or God or faith, whatever you want to, is gonna start pulling you in a direction that may be off the path that you've been on, that you trust, that you know, and you might be pulled into the uncertain waters that the ego hates. The ego hates uncertainty, but that's where all the growth happens, when we don't know, when there's uncertainty. That's why the 20s might feel a little bit uncertain. So you're starting to hear your own voice beneath all the noise. The gut feelings are not random. They're actually this internal wisdom. And if it doesn't feel right, even if it looks right, it's probably not for you. And sometimes we gotta learn this by going through the process of feeling this gut instinct, making a bad decision, and then maybe regretting it later. But I don't think about regrets. I don't think about failures. It's all learning. And Gabrielle Bernstein said it beautifully, because she said, intuition is the GPS of the soul. It's trying to guide you. The next things, this happens a lot in 20s, is we start having breakups from relationships, maybe your high school sweetheart, failures, You can get fired for your first job, rejection, you don't get the job. This is where there's a lot of learning. And this is where we start to lose our identity, because we identify ourselves with the person we were with. We identify ourselves with our job, or just starting a business. We're not just kind of grieving this situation, it's part of this identity loss. But actually, what I like to think of is this forced redirection. Sometimes we're in the wrong relationship. We're giving of ourselves and allowing to explore, to find out who we really are, or feel like we need someone else to complete us. And also, like, failure, which is learning, is like helping you to redirect. And sometimes it could be a health scare. Sometimes it could be a car accident or a breakup. These big, intense life events, for me personally, so many moments in my life, especially my 20s, and things would happen and I would be in the muck of it and be like, I wish this would have never happened. I would do anything, pay any amount of money, do community service, like volunteer at the homeless shelters for a year if I could just go back in a time machine and change this. And once I got out of it, I looked back and said that experience was so important. That failure, getting into that business, breaking up out of that relationship, although it was so painful at the time, actually helped me to learn, grow, and change the direction of my life. So don't get caught in it, because we don't know if it's good or bad, right? The mind tries to always figure that out. But there's so many amazing parables and sayings, the surrender experiment or the Chinese farmer, where things keep happening, you stay present. Like, I don't know if this is good or bad yet. Let's just see, let's wait and see. Trust your intuition. Usually you're gonna see in the long run that it was actually happening for you, not to you. So failure also builds resilience. Like, these pathways in the brain expands your emotional capacity. So it's good to fail in your 20s. You know, it's hard to fail in your 40s and 50s when you have less energy, you have more at stake, maybe dependence. So now's the good time to take some chances, but calculated chances, not risky chances. Well, I guess you can be the judge of that. And J.K. Rowling said, rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. And this is a common story for many people who are successful that went through so many failures, hit rock bottom, and then they had to shift. This one is an interesting one. Ditch the passion pressure. Find your passion is bad advice. I think it creates stress. I think the best way to reframe is follow your curiosity. You don't have to find your passion, but you have to follow your curiosity until you find it. It builds purpose over time. And a lot of times, in order to build our purpose, we have to do a lot of the inner work, the beliefs that are holding us back, the fears that we have. And slowly as we do that, we get more clear. And then we start getting led to our passion and our purpose. And just taking actionable steps helps to create that clarity. So don't wait for clarity to act. Clarity comes from action and being disciplined. And I'm gonna talk about this in a few steps at the end that you can do. Another huge one, especially now. When I was in my 20s, this wasn't as much. I guess just Facebook was getting started around that time. On Instagram and social media, everyone's showing their best 2%. You're comparing it to your worst 98%. And just flip it. Like, maybe like that's what's possible, but it's not proof that you're behind, that they're any better. They're not showing you the other side of it. So don't compare yourself to others. It's a big thing. Like try to not compare yourself to others. And constant comparison will spike cortisol and dopamine, which will burn out your motivation over time, but it's kind of this thing that we get hooked on also. Okay, so try to shut off the Instagram and the Facebook and really focus on, like, what do I actually really want? Focus on your strengths, things that you're good at. Also, in your 20s, you might feel like you procrastinate a lot. I want you to know it's not laziness. It's usually overwhelm. You're scared of what it means if you do the thing. You've got a project for 2 months and you finish in 2 hours. Just start with 2 minutes. This is ADHD, analysis paralysis. We don't know what to do. We have all these options and we do nothing. Does that resonate with you? But it's important to start doing just a little bit each day towards that goal, towards that resume, towards that new project that you want to do. Build momentum. You don't have to finish it all in one day, but create that space. You can watch my other video on ADHD paralysis if you want to learn more about specific tips around that. But taking action will actually decrease anxiety, shifting the brain out of the limbic system into that prefrontal cortex. Now, here's a few things that are really important tips for you guys that I wish I had been told. So number one is find a mentor. Who is a mentor? It can be a coach, you can hire someone, but someone who's kind of been through it before, someone you look up to, someone you're like, wow, I wish my life could be a little bit like that. Maybe they're successful, maybe they're a great dad, maybe they're, coach of the sports team, but they can give you perspectives you can't get on your own. They can fast track your progress, they can help you to avoid hard situations or move through them faster. And I thought I knew it all and didn't even think about a mentor until I was late in my 30s. It doesn't have to be formal. It could be someone that is like, you're just going to help them, but that is like to ask. Because people who are doing good, if you ask them for support, to be a mentor, to pick their brain, usually they're gonna wanna help. But if they don't, they're probably not the right person for a mentor. You can volunteer to help them, go shovel their driveway, cut their grass, ask them if you can help them with any project or if they have a business, just volunteer. Because that value you get back is like a 10x investment on your time. And just ask them for advice. What would you do in my position? A mentor, this is John C. Maxwell, is a great leadership kind of coach and author. He says a mentor is someone whose hindsight can become your foresight. I love that, okay? Also, part of this is building a growth circle. Like who you surrounded by. Who you hang around matters more than you think, especially in your 20s. And you've probably got a lot of buddies or friends that want to party. And I would say I wish I partied a little bit less, but didn't not party at all, because you're also networking and building friends, having experiences. Do they support the person you're becoming? Do they support you? Do they lift you up? Do they challenge you, inspire you, encourage your growth? Or are they putting you down? Or do you feel like they're influencing you to do the wrong things? And you're going to become the average of the 5 people you surround yourself most with. I think it was Jim Rohn. Someone said that quote, I'm not sure. So your mentor is a great place to start. You can join a mastermind, an online community, a men's group, a sports team, something like that. The other big thing that's super important is to just keep learning. Always keep learning. Stay curious, stay humble, take an online course, watch YouTube videos. You're a sponge still in your 20s. And the more you learn and have experiences, volunteer for a construction company, go work somewhere else. Like the more skills you can build, learn how to edit, learn how to do coding, whatever you feel curious about, learn about it. Because those skills you can take with you. It's gonna make you more resilient. It's gonna allow you to do more things, maybe get a job, start a business, but you have to keep learning. Okay, that's super important. Stay humble. In your 20s, you really don't know much. Trust me, I thought I knew a lot. And learning will help to boost your confidence, rewire your identity. So again, keep reading books, take a course, do those things, okay? Lifelong learning delays cognitive decline as well. So when you get older, you're gonna be happy, your younger self did that. And also, importantly, improves overall emotional well-being, which is important in your 20s. Couple more tips. Number 1, discipline is important in your 20s, and it's hard because this is when we're kind of in the rebellion stage, but it's more important than motivation. You can't pump yourself up long enough. Discipline will build momentum, motivation will fade over time. So to be disciplined, it's good to have a why, the reason why you're doing things, but you got to show up even when you don't like it. You miss one day, that's fine. You miss 2 days, you're building a new habit. Okay, so show up every day, do something. Whether it's a morning routine, whether it's eating healthy. The clearer your mind is, the better shape you're in your body, the more you're going to be able to be successful in life, because they all support each other. Spiritual, mental, physical, emotional are all connected. So a simple reframe for me is discipline is actually self-respect. And once you discipline yourself, you start to develop new skills, then you can start to use your intuition and discern. But in the beginning, it's going to be hard because you're growing, you're developing. So make a clear decision, start with discipline, allow yourself to develop, things will get easier, and then you're going to grow into the full potential of who you're supposed to be. So discipline is doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. That's a quote, unknown, and I love that one as well. And number 12, this is the 12th point, is basically build your network. Volunteer, help others, go to events where you're going to meet people that are interesting, that spark your curiosity, that are doing great things. Instead of asking, what can I get? Ask, how can I help? Be generous with your energy, because the more you give, the more you receive. I didn't understand this in my 20s. I really understand it now. And every meaningful opportunity will start with a relationship. The more people you know, the more they're going to support you, refer you, help you find a job. And Porter Gale said, your network is your net worth. And it's true, because your network is resilient. A business may fail, but the people you know will help lift you back up again. So just to close off here, being lost is a good sign. Lost means you've left the path that wasn't for you. It means you're searching, and that is sacred. You know, this search for meaning, finding yourself. Okay, so just remember, everyone's figuring out as they go along. Even me, like, even though I'm doing way better than I was in my 20s, I'm still figuring it out. But I've learned a lot, and it's a little bit easier now than it was before. So you're not lost, you're just early in your story. So stick with it, follow the things in this, and share this with a friend. If you think someone is in their 20s that's lost or may need some help, I wish someone had shared this with me. So Gio, thanks so much for watching. See you next time.